Woo! What is up, everybody? It's your boy Clint. Welcome to the Die Hard MMA podcast, brought to you by, powered by odds.com. That is right. This is the first ever stream of the Die Hard MMA podcast that is brought to you by our brand new sponsors, odds.com, and I could not be more excited. You may notice a few differences. We are currently live on multiple spots. If you're following me on my channel, I appreciate you. Thank you for hanging out. However, do me a favor. Head on over to Odds HQ on YouTube and subscribe to them as well. They are our new sponsors, and that's where the podcast is going to live moving forward from here on out. We're also live streaming on Twitter. We're on Periscope. We're on Twitch. We're making sure we've got all of our bases covered because we have got to bring the MMA action to the people. What's up, everybody? Welcome into the show. Thank you very much for joining me today. I am super excited, as always, to talk to you about some fight and some gambling action. Let's welcome in the chat my boy Nick, first boy in the chat room. I appreciate you, buddy. How you doing? Gregory Wilson, Michael Lunday, my man. And then we've got Gaming with Von Polo. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today. You know what? While we're on the subject of my boy Michael and Dana, I have to give a huge thank you for you, my friend. Received your message today. I'm glad to hear that you cashed in on that over. We got to do a full recap of UFC 250, go over all the betting action, and we got to talk about everything that we did right and everything that we did wrong, because as they always say in betting and in poker, you're either winning or you're learning. So we're paying to lose. We're paying to learn. Got to take that little grain of salt. Got to take that silver lining in there. Sports Gambling Daily. What's up, my friends? Z's MMA. Welcome to the show. Danny, Brandon, thank you for being here. Let's freaking go. I can't believe how pumped up I am coming off of a losing weekend. That's right. Unfortunately, I got my ass handed to me on Saturday. So we got to go over and break the bad news, but there's going to be no crying in the beer here because we've got some good stuff coming up, some opportunities to make some cash. And, you know, last week wasn't really quite as bad as it looked. I'll just go ahead and put it that way for now. I gave Michael Lunday, my boy, a shout out. Thank you so much for the tip, my friend. We also have a tip from Michael Simmons last week that I got after I had recorded last week's show. He cashed in hard on my read on Jamal Hill and sent me a little thank you for that. So thank you very much, Michael Simmons. I greatly appreciate you doing that. As we always say on the show, tips and donations are always appreciated to support the show. Very much appreciated. If I put you on some kind of a winner or something like that, it means the world to me when you all cash, especially and it's based off of one of my reads. So let's go back over to UFC 250, right? Let's dive straight on into it. I'm going to get this up right here. Woo! Magic of green screen. I love it. So we've got the first fight of the night. Evan Dunham, Gilbert Burns, and what a barn burner as long as it lasted, right? We talked about how Evan Dunham was just shot. We talked about how retired fighters, they don't do well. They come back from retirement. They're in the gym. You know, they're respected elders usually. People probably take it a little bit easy on them because they're trying to learn from them, and there's that deep level of respect. And they get that itch. They either need it financially, they get the itch, whatever the case may be, and they want to come back. And it just doesn't really ever pan out for them, does it? We get the other Burns here in this fight, and he shows up. I know a lot of people were poo-pooing the other Burns last week on a lot of different podcasts saying that this was, you know, maybe too big of a hill to climb, especially after, you know, kind of a sketchy, questionable start to his run in the UFC. No one was really convinced by that early knockout. Damn, did he show up. So what we did, we had a 4-fight parlay where we put all of the big favorites that I expected to win, who were all potential bed shitters, into one parlay and risked 1 unit on them because what I did was something incredibly stupid. Just for a little bit of clout, I decided to bet every single fight at UFC 250. And it didn't pan out well. So I was trying to kind of limit my exposure here. I picked the big favorites that I thought would all win, but were all a little risky. That way, you know, if somebody did end up shitting the bed, it only cost me 1 unit instead of costing me multiple units across other parlays or whatever. I wanted to make sure we limited that exposure. Gilbert Burns cashed easily. He was the first leg of the parlay. He was the first bet of the night. And this is where you look back in hindsight and you kind of want to go, damn it, why didn't I single him? Like, why didn't I take Gilbert Burns inside the distance by itself as a prop? And it's, we're always learning. We're constantly learning. We never know really where these guys are. There were some questions around whether or not he was ready for this level of competition. So I think it was justified, and I can't cry too much about missing that spot. We have got the chat blowing up here. Thank you all for participating so much. I appreciate it. Welcome into the show, Albert. We've got Sheldon. Won on Clark, but lost on Charles. Sorry to hear about that, but hey, at least you cashed on Clark, because that was something that I had no opportunity to do it. 1D Ammo, thank you very much. How do you do bad? You recommended betting on the black guys. Yeah, it was the way that I had put the bets together. We'll get into that. I made a couple of slight mistakes that cost me, and it was very, very... It was my bad. Basically, that's all we can say about it. I always tell you all, so now that we're on odds.com, now that we're on Twitch, and we're on a bunch of other places, I'm going to go ahead and repeat this. I am not a professional sports bettor, all right? I am a degenerate gambler, and I say that in the most affectionate term possible. I've never lost my mortgage or missed a meal because of gambling, but I love calling myself a degenerate. I'm a gambler. I'm an MMA fan. I'm a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu blue belt. I've trained Muay Thai and boxing for many, many years. So I've got a base in the sport. It's a limited experience base, but it is a base nonetheless. I love MMA. And I played poker for a very, very long time, and I started to put that knowledge towards sports betting. I'm still growing and still learning as a sports bettor, but MMA is by far my best sport. So that's what I do. I'm going to give you all my information for free. I'm never going to charge you for shit, and I'm going to break down everything for you live every single Monday. We've got an episode coming out every single week. We will break down every single card from every angle that I can think of. We will grow and learn together. So if you tail my picks, I'm going to try and make you some money, but I also can't guarantee that I'm going to, because sometimes I'm really sharp, and like this weekend, sometimes I'm really stupid. So we will get into how I messed up and what we can do to avoid that in the future. D-Hops, thank you very much for jumping in here. Jay, the best bet for this weekend. Don't worry, got you covered. We will get to that. Stick around. And sometimes the show goes a little long, so if you can't hang out the entire time, I totally understand. You can always come back. It's going to be in a playlist on Odds HQ, our new sponsor, if you missed that part of the show. So please make sure you subscribe to Odds HQ down below. And if you're on Odds HQ, throw me a sub over on the Die Hard MMA podcast channel as well. I'm trying to get myself up to 1,000 subscribers. I would appreciate it. Hold them. Let's go. Usually when somebody tries to lower variance, it ends up the other way around. And that's true. That is very true. That's what happened to me. JT, what's up, my man? Jerry. All right, let's get back to the recap before we lose people, because I'm just shouting out too many people in the chat. I'm sorry. I love you all. Positivity here, folks. That's what we do. So second fight of the night is Alonzo Menifield versus Devin Brown Bear Clark. And I've got a personal vendetta against Devin Brown Bear Clark. I don't like him. I don't think he belongs at 205 in the UFC. I think he's a 185er. And he does this. He basically only beats low-class, low-level fighters. And I thought that Alonzo Menifield was going to be able to knock him out. So he was the second leg of that wild four-leg parlay that we had going. Unfortunately, the rest is history. You all know Devin was able to dig deep, and he was able to grind out a 15-minute win. All props to him. That's one that I can't take anything away from him for. He did exactly what he needed to do. But let's be real. Alonzo Menifield gassed out after the first round and basically didn't offer any offense the rest of the fight. That was something that we knew was a possibility, but when Alonzo Menifield landed, you could absolutely see Clark's reaction. He wanted nothing to do with that heat. And I'm honestly shocked that the fight didn't get stopped, or they didn't have the doctor come in and check Brown Bear's eye, because the way he had that eye closed for the entire rest of the first round, the way he couldn't get it open, even between rounds, they were like pressing on it and stuff. Usually in those situations, they bring the doctor in to take a look. So I was really surprised when they didn't. And I thought, honestly, I know a lot of people tried to live bet Devin Clark after the first round, but with the amount of damage Menifield had done and the way Clark was reacting with that eye, I wouldn't have bet him live after the first round either. So I can't even say that after the first round, I thought, oh boy, we're in trouble. No, I thought Menifield was still going to clip him with one more shot and put him down, because it really looked like one or two half-decent shots would have ended the night. So unfortunately, the parlay busts, boom, right there on the second fight of the night. We knew it was possible, but it is what it is. We were only risking one unit, and we covered 4 fights on it with my whole bet every fight on the card thing. can't complain. It was kind of a long shot to begin with anyway. We move on to the first straight bet of the night, one that I really like, Tuesday Formiga taking on Alex Perez. And boy, damn, some people tried to talk me into taking Perez. And one thing that I've gotten better at is trusting myself. When I make a read on a UFC fight, when I make a read on a bet, I stick to my guns. It's something that I used to be a little flaky about. I used to be wishy-washy. There were some people in the betting space that I respect. And as soon as I heard somebody going against me or saying otherwise on a read that I had, I would hedge off, or I would basically bet the other side to make sure I broke even on it or something like that. And I realized I was leaving money on the table. I know some things, and sometimes I make some spectacular reads, not always, obviously, but sometimes. And I was just messing up because there were times where I was right when other people were wrong. And I had to stop doing that. So these days, I trust myself a whole lot more. And this is one where I stuck to my guns. A lot of people were telling me how much upside Perez had. And I was like, no, I really think that we're going to have an opportunity here with Formiga to have the better, higher class fighter taking on a lower, young, up-and-coming guy. And Formiga has such a big edge in jiu-jitsu, and Perez's whole game plan is getting the fight to the ground. So I really thought it played into his skill set well. And I can't take anything away from Perez. What I can do is I can talk some crap about Formiga, because in the year of our Lord 2020, how do you possibly continue to let these people get off on leg kicks? Blows my mind. Leg kicks have changed the MMA game, and you cannot let a guy get 4 or 5 leg kicks unanswered off at the beginning of a fight. You can only take 4 or 5 leg kicks before they really start affecting your performance. And these guys, these young, hungry kids that have a speed advantage, come out and they just whack 2, 3, 4 leg kicks off right off the bat, and then you can't do anything. You can't plant for power on your punches. You can't step in with any durability for a takedown. Like, it ruins your entire base. Leg kicks are so dangerous, and to see a guy like Formiga just eat them to start the fight and not do a damn thing about it. I mean, you can bet on a guy and have as much of a read as you think you will and say whatever about his skill set, but if his game plan is different than yours, call it a day. I do think Formiga can handle Perez on the mat, but Perez found a path to victory. And again, like I said, can't take anything from the kid. He's an exciting prospect moving forward. But unfortunately, that brings us to 0-2 on the night. I was not feeling fantastic at this point, but I kept on reassuring myself that there is a whole heck of a lot of fight card coming up after this point. And you know what, everybody, I go ahead and stop it right there, because even though we do have a new sponsor on the show, we still have to give a shout out to our boys at Goat Capital Sports. That's right, goatcapitalsports.com. Check them out. They bet on UFC 250, and they actually had a much better night than I did. A couple of the reads that I had missteps on, they cashed in pretty damn hard. So make sure you check them out. Tell them that Clint sent you, because the boys at goatcapitalsports.com have been with us for quite some time. We love and appreciate them, and especially with the other major sports coming back, they give picks for all the other major sports that I don't cover. So be sure to go and check them out. Let's see here. Taking a look at the chat. Yeah, JT, I saw that announcement about Volkan. I am pretty excited about that fight, having a risen champion come over to the UFC and see how he pairs up with the top end of the division. Very, very excited about that. And let's see here, bro. Can you? No. Boston Nick is my boy. Get out of here. He's going to be on the live stream with me and Jimmy and Mo Scream tomorrow. Nick is the man. I love that kid. Faded every guy over 35, and it worked out. There's an angle for you right there. We do have a rule here on the Die Hard MMA podcast that you don't bet fighters over the age of 40 unless you've got a damn good reason to do so. And at the smaller weight classes, 35 might be a much better mark for that, because they're so reliant on speed. So that's a pretty good call. Let's keep on rolling. So now we get to the regular preliminary card. Charles Byrd takes on Maki Pitolo. I had Byrd in a parlay. Now, when they first announced this fight, I'm a sucker for power, all right? That's something that you'll notice with me, is that when somebody's got that ability to close the show, I think that's so valuable from a betting perspective. They can end the fight from any place, anywhere, anytime. You can never really count them out. So I was a huge fan of Maki when he first got to the UFC. And then he just laid a massive egg in his first fight, and he got totally outclassed by a guy that never should have been anywhere near him. So then when they match him up against Byrd, he's coming up to 185. I'm thinking, well, he has a bad gas tank. He struggles with wrestlers. I'm not sure if his coconut bombs are really as powerful as we thought they were to begin with. Bird should be able to take him down and grind him as a natural 185er. Bird looked really good in his last couple fights besides when he got clipped and KO'd. He was doing great before that point. And honestly, huge error on my part. I mean, if the parlay wasn't already busted, this would have done it too, because Bird got handled. I don't know what it was. He retired shortly after the fight. And that's another rule of mine, is you don't bet on retiring fighters. Obviously, the problem with that is you got to know they're retiring. So unless you have seen something saying like, hey guys, this is my last fight, or say, like, you're never going to know if the fighter's actually retiring or not. So it's hard to actually take that angle. But if someone, like when Faber had his retirement fight, that kind of thing, like I just stay off of it, because normally the retirement word, it gets into your brain. You're not dedicated to the fight game the way you were before. You're not going to have a great performance. Well, Bird came out and he shit the bed. He was doing what he needed to do. Patolo was he was struggling with the grappling, but he kept on getting back up. And I mean, Bird only had one round of gas. I was surprised by that. As soon as the first round was over, it was evident that he had nothing left to give. I don't really know how hard he tried for this fight, because Patolo just cranked it up, and the coconut bombs he ripped to the body after that, it was over in a hurry as soon as Maki got wind of the fact that Bird was fading. So maybe Maki at 185 pounds is a thing. You know, we talk about these legendary creatures in MMA where they're completely different stories. Maki looks good at 185. He maybe is one of those guys that was cutting too much weight and that was sucking the potential out of his body, trying to get down to 170 instead of actually being the bigger, stronger guy down there. It was damaging his performance. So only time will tell. We're going to have to wait and see what happens here. But I'll be very interested to see where Maki goes from here at 185. And I'm really upset because not a lot of dogs cashed on this card. So for the fact that the two dogs that I basically drew a line through at the very beginning of handicapping this thing, I was like, those two are not ones I'm interested in. For those to be the two that cashed, kind of sucks. So we go to Cody Stamann, Brian Kelleher. This was one that my favorite dog on the card, plus 200. Kelleher he's awesome. All right. I love this guy. Class act, brings the fight. He was trying to take Cody's head off all the way up until the final second of that fight. Now, I thought the ground game was going to play a little bit more into this. I thought that Cody was going to go for takedowns. And I honestly thought that Kelleher was going to have, I don't know if I want to say more of an advantage, but I thought it was going to be more equal on the feet. I thought Kelleher was going to be a better striker than Cody, but Cody did what he does, and he just outpointed Kelleher on the feet, and he stayed clear of the submission threat, which is something that I thought we had in our back pocket, but Cody never even let us get there. So very intelligent game plan by Cody Stamann, which we always see with Cody, and I don't know what it is. I don't like Cody. I don't ever bet on Cody Stamann. And all the guy does is win. He's got high fight IQ. He's got good cardio. He's physically powerful for the weight class, excellent wrestling. And for whatever reason, I just keep trying to fade the guy and it doesn't work. I don't know why I do it, but I thought plus 200 or better on Brian Boom Kelleher. The way he's streaking right now, the way he's putting it all together and fighting with the wind at his back, I really wanted to get behind that. I thought it was okay to roll the dice at that point, especially when Cody did start to slow down in round 3 and Brian really cranked it up, trying to put him away. I thought that's when the magic might happen, but didn't happen. So unfortunately, like I said, we had a rough night at UFC 250, and here's where the key and my idiocy really came into place. We have a middleweight fight, Ian Heinisch versus Gerald Meerschaert. Now, I had been talking about how I was scared to take Ian basically the entire week because I needed to see the changes in his game. I needed to see the mental changes. He needed to switch camps, switch gyms, something like that, anything like that for me to have faith in him again. I was really high on him when he first got to the UFC, dropping the back-to-back losses, not evolving. I had to take a step back. But since I decided to bet every single fight on UFC 250, I got to go with him. You know, I thought Ian was going to be the winner, but what I did was I got a little too fancy. So if any of you have any experience playing poker, they call it fancy play syndrome. When you try to check raise somebody because you got a good hand, or when you check the turn, when maybe you shouldn't check the turn, you should just be betting. Stupid stuff happens when you try to get fancy, when you try to outsmart your opponent just to prove that you can. Shit gets messed up. Something always catches. They get away without paying you the right amount because you tried to check raise them and they just check back instead. They hit the Miracle River card because you checked the turn and let them have a free opportunity to get there. You end up paying for it every single time. And this is a lesson that I have learned before. And I fell right back into that trap. I tried to get too fancy. I bet Ian Heinisch by decision. I thought there was no way he was going to put away GM3. Gerald Meerschaert has been very durable in his career. Ian Heinisch hasn't shown any type of knockout power. I was like, there's no way that this fight finishes inside the distance. GM3 will not be able to submit Ian. Ian will not be able to knock out GM3, and it's going to the judges' cards. Well, Ian was like minus 130. What am I doing? Any good solid sports bettor is going to tell you that if somebody is in the range of 110, 120, 130, and you believe in that side, believe in that favorite, that's a solid bet. You cover all your bases. If they land a fluke submission, if they land a flash KO, if their opponent slips on a banana peel and they get on top of them and hit them twice and the referee pulls them off, if you take them straight, you're getting all of that in the bet. But if you take the prop, you're limiting yourself to one outcome. And changing a minus 130 favorite to a plus 160 dog, obviously hindsight is 2020, but that's just irrational. Like, even if going to decision is probably the best outcome, minus 125 is nothing. I should have laid the wood. It just makes more sense. So this is where I screwed up. Ian wins. I picked the right side. I picked the right fighter. I made the wrong bet. So hopefully, if you listen to me in the breakdown, I hope you took Ian straight instead of taking the decision prop like I did, because it cost me. So yeah, unfortunately, that was a bit of a crap show. So here we go. What's up, everybody? I thought Kelleher could get the KO too, my friend. I really did. Pat, what's going on, buddy? He would have won if he wouldn't retire. Yeah, I saw somebody tweeted at me that he retired after the first round, and I was like, pretty dang much, man. He wanted nothing to do with it. Oh, yeah, we will get to Hooper. Don't you worry. We will get to Hooper. All right. I believe you said Ian by KO was very intriguing on the live stream. You know what? But that's something that I honestly had never given any credit to. I never, in any circumstance, when I handicapped that fight, this is why I love MMA so much. This is why I want to spread my love of MMA to everybody else, is that stuff that you don't expect happens. In a football game, football's football. We've seen so many games. We've seen so many times, like, yes, there will be an amazing play, a long bomb for a touchdown, but that's always possible, right? In MMA, something always shows up that you're not expecting. And that's where you cannot put a limit on what humans are capable of. I never saw Ian landing a knockout, especially over a wily, crafty, deserving veteran like Gerald Meerschaert. So if anybody had him by KO, I'm sure that was a very nice price, and I'm sure they were richly rewarded for taking that stab. And yeah, Lee, stick to money line bets. I completely agree. What I like to do, I know I'm getting a little off on a sidetrack here, so I apologize. I'm going to bring it right back around. What I like to do is when you've got like a minus 250 favorite. So if you've got a big favorite that you don't want to parlay because you can't find another favorite with them, or you just don't want to lay that price with them, and then you can get a plus line on a prop, that's my angle. So if Ian was a minus 250 favorite and I could get plus 150 on the by decision prop, that makes far more sense. I'm not laying 2.5 to 1. I'm risking 1 unit, and then the most likely outcome is giving me a juicy dog price. That is how I like to do it. So this is where, like I said, I kind of lost my mind with me having a little bit of fun and being like, hey, I'm going to bet every single fight on the card. I kind of lost sight a little bit, and I shouldn't have taken the prop. But that was, that's where I went wrong, and it bit us in the ass twice this card, which I prayed to the gods of variance. I put out a tweet. I was like, please, we're betting every single fighter tonight. Don't bite me in the ass, gods of variance. And they were like, they wanted to come after me, because not once, but twice. Razor sharp picks. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. And let's go through here. Justin, my boy, what's up, man? Thank you very much for coming on the show. So after that Ian Heinisch situation, we come to Chase Hooper versus Alex Caceres. This is one that's a little bit interesting because I did go ahead and lay the wood with Chase Hooper. Now, I cautioned everybody about this fight. I said, look, Chase Hooper does not deserve to be this big of a favorite in this fight. But I knew that Chase Hooper was going to close around minus 200. This was me going, look, I think Chase Hooper is going to win. The line might be a little bit off, but I know I'm going to get the best number. So I went ahead and bet Chase Hooper at minus 145. And sure enough, so much money came in on Chase Hooper. He closed around minus 210, I think, minus 215, maybe even higher than that. I can't believe the landslide of money that came in. And I tried to help everybody out. I tweeted out later in the week that, look, at the point that Alex Caceres got to like plus 170, perfect time to hedge off. I don't normally hedge off because I like to stick by my guns. I like to stick by my reads, but you could have very easily risked, when he got to plus 200, you could have put a half unit on Alex Caceres and locked up a half unit of free money. Don't even sweat the fight. Walk out of there with free cash. It was that easy. Beating the line movement was very important to me. And I'll be honest, I never even considered betting Alex Caceres. I was convinced that Chase Hooper was going to be able to drag him to the mat. But this is where I was talking about. You're not inside these fighters' heads. There's nothing we can do if the fighter doesn't follow the game plan. Hooper wasted round one trying to strike with Alex Caceres. You got me. I have no idea why he would do that. Grapplers who fall in love with their striking are maybe the worst things to happen in MMA. I understand you're well-rounding your game. You feel good. You're confident in your hands, but you're going against a guy that you are in no way even close to as fast as, and he's got 10 years plus high-level striking experience over you. Ain't going to happen. This string bean white kid is going to come out here. He was super slow. All credit to his chin. He took some big shots and he hung in there. But as soon as he took that first big shot, it should have been, okay, shut it down, grapple. Like, that's your path to victory, dude. That's what you need to do. That's all you can do for this point in time, grapple. And if he had maybe started grappling from the get-go when he wasn't tired and sweaty and potentially rocked, maybe he does get Alex Caceres to the ground. Maybe he does sync up that choke, but he waited until round two after he had already taken a bunch of damage to even try, and by then, Caceres had his number. So, unfortunately, we paid the extra wood on that one. We didn't hedge off, and I got to eat that loss. And that's gambling, folks. That's gambling. So, I thought we were on the right side. I still like Chase Hooper. I know a lot of people were shitting on him because everybody lost money on Chase Hooper this week, but the kid's gonna be something. He's still got the raw skill set. He's going to grow into something. He just needs a little bit of time. I'll bet you he will eventually get there. So then we go to the main event, the main card. People were bitching about this card, and I tried to tell everybody. I'm like, dude, this is going to be a phenomenal card. It's worth the price. I know the main event isn't fantastic because we know it's a mismatch, and it's not one of the big names in like men's MMA or anything like that, but it's going to be a great main card. Boy, did it live up to the hype. I loved it. So Sean O'Malley takes on Eddie Wineland. O'Malley was the anchor of that parlay that we had that's been dead for about 2 years at this point, so it didn't even matter. But he comes out and destroys Eddie in round one. This is another one, very much like the Herbert Burns situation, that you could have got almost even money on Sean O'Malley inside the distance. And I'm kind of kicking myself for going, why didn't I just do that? Because I knew he was going to wreck Eddie Wineland. There were two setup fights on this card. Hooper was supposed to destroy Caceres, and O'Malley was supposed to destroy Eddie Wineland. Only one of them panned out. So, I mean, we could have done straight shots, and I mean, it would have been about the same because I guess the parlay would have broken even going 2-2 rather than losing a unit on the parlay as a whole. But it is what it is, folks. I'm very excited about the future of Sean O'Malley. I hope they don't rush him along too long. Too hard, too quickly. He's coming along. He's doing everything right. He's making all the changes. He's growing. He's improving. He's filling out in his frame. This kid is going to be something special. And I really hope that they don't, like, people are talking about Cody Garbrandt. Pump the brakes. Like, give the kid one more fight or something, 6 more months before you make him fight a champion caliber fighter with devastating knockout power like that, just to make sure he's ready to go, because this is a potential Conor McGregor level star if they bring him along the right way. And there's already a massive bantamweight backup as far as contenders goes. Let him chip away at a couple of these guys that are in the fringes of the top 15 and top 10 before you rush him into a title. I think there could be definitely something here. The UFC knows it too. That's why they're giving him guys like Eddie Wineland. They're doing a good job. So Neil Magny, Anthony, Rocco, Martin. Sorry, those all got kind of compressed together in my mouth. So Neil Magny, this was my 2-banger on the night. This is the one play that I was most confident in. This is the play that, had we not decided, hey, what the hell, let's bet every single fight, This is going to be my lock of the night. This was the one that I pegged from the very get-go, minus 150. I got a bad line. I wasn't expecting money to come in on Anthony Rocco Martin, and I was this close to adding another unit on Magny when he got down to, I think, minus 130 is as low as he got. And I don't do more than 2-unit plays. I was very tempted to make like my first ever 3-unit play to make this thing happen because I was very confident in Magny. Now, the judging, there was a little bit of a question as to was the 30-27 appropriate or not. He basically handled Martin the entire time. He was attacking with the leg kicks. I feel like he was getting the better of the striking. He was constantly scoring. And then, thank God, Martin gassed out in round 3. That was just the biggest relief to me because, honestly, I thought the fight was a whole lot closer. I had it scored 29-28 for Magny. I thought it was 1-1 going into the third. So when Martin gassed out, that was music to my ears. I was like, we got one. It was the first winning actual cash bet of the night because even though I got Burns and O'Malley right, they were in the dead parlay. So I hadn't gotten any money back to begin with at this point. I was so excited and happy to see. So I think rounds 1 and 2, they were very, very close. They could have gone either way, but I leaned more towards Magny in both of them. I did give, I think, the first round to Rocco. I can't remember now. It's been too long and I was having a little too much fireball at the time. So I can't remember exactly which round I gave to Rocco, but I was certain we needed round 3. So as soon as the judges read off 30-27, locked up, baby. I was so excited because there was no way you could give that fight 30-27 to Rocco Martin. It had to be Magny. So we get back 2 units there. We cashed the 2-banger. If you follow my articles over on odds.com, that's the one I gave out as my best bet of the evening as well. So feels good. At least I know I'm not a complete idiot after messing up the other fights on this card. I was starting to really question myself. I was like, dear God, if Rocco wins this fight, if he like leg kicks him and then gets like a 3rd round TKO or something, I'm not going to be able to come on the live stream on Monday because of shame. So the next fight of the night, Aljo Sterling, Corey Sandhagen, the people's main event, the fight that we all really cared about here. I had been saying all week that Aljo was coming. I was on the side of Aljo, and I really thought that, again, trying to be very delicate here, but with the situation going on in the United States and around the world, the Black Lives Matter issue, Aljamain Sterling really seemed to shoulder that. He was coming with a righteous fury leading up to this fight, and that was just something I felt like was a runaway freight train. And just one more reason why did I bet a prop? I had Aljamain Sterling by decision at plus 170, and this dude is so dangerous. He can land a TKO. He can land a submission. I'm getting damn near even money. It's a pick'em price on this, and I could have just taken Aljamain Sterling straight and cashed maybe the easiest bet on the entire card. He took Corey down and handled him. It was over insanely quickly, and I still lost a unit on it. Feels bad, man. Feels bad. I'm excited to see what he does next. I hope they give him that title shot because he definitely deserves that title shot. I absolutely believe it. He's done what he needed to do. And I know a lot of people have been saying this, so I don't want to be like a repeater or anything, but Corey Sandhagen, he's young. He's relatively fresh and new to the UFC. He was rising through the ranks like a madman. He will be back. He'll get 1 or 2 wins under his belt. He'll be right back in the title picture. I think it'll be good for him. He'll grow from this. The co-main event, Cody Garbrandt, Rafael Assunção. I have a dog bet plus 125 on Rafael Assunção, and this one didn't pan out for me either. I'm not a believer in Cody Garbrandt coming back from everything, his chin issues, his mental hurdles. I mean, 2 more things. I know I've talked a couple times about my rules when it comes to sports betting tonight, but 2 of the big things that I don't bet on. You can't bet on a fighter with bad IQ, and you can't bet on a fighter with a bad chin. Both of those things are Cody Garbrandt. So when it came to picking every single fight on this card, I know I've said that a lot. Sorry, I'll stop saying it. I had to go with Assunção. It was dog or pass for me because I could not trust Cody with my money. At any point in time, he could have lost his cool and started swinging for the fences. At any point in time, Assunção could have closed the distance and clipped him. Cody put on a master performance. He came out. He was locked in. He was absolutely focused. And you know what? He did what he had to do. However, everybody's talking about how he's back. Everybody's talking about how he's right back in the mix. Give him the title shot. Like, I'm hearing that from people. And I think, I don't know that I'm not sold. I'm not sold on Cody yet. So yes, he beat Rafael Assunção, but Rafael never really got off. Cody was doing such a good distance of managing the distance and the space, and his speed was a bigger advantage than I expected it to be in this fight. I thought Rafael was going to be able to get in there, and he couldn't. He couldn't land a finger on him. So I'm not entirely convinced that Cody's chin issues are a thing of the past. And in round 2, I know Cody was starting to get the timing. He was starting to get his distance, his range, and he started to open up. But I also saw a little bit of emotion. When he started to let go, even the knockout punch that he landed, that's going to be a highlight reel we're going to see for years. But he drops his hand like all the way down by his hip to wind that thing up like a baseball bat. Someone's going to make him pay for that. That's the kind of thing that if you've got a fighter who's a little faster, they're going to see that coming and they'll be able to ding you with a counter. So let's just wait and see what happens in the next fight. Let's see who he matches up with, because I very likely might be fading Cody Garbrandt in his next fight. We will see. I know he's an incredible athlete. I know he's very skilled, very technical, got big power in his hands, but I'm not sold on his chin. And I think if anybody can kind of bring that fight to him again and withstand the power that he brings, he probably goes to sleep again. So it's going to take the right opponent. But Cody's probably going to be a pass for me unless we get the perfect spot in his next matchup. Main event time. This is where I feel a little better about myself. My only bet on the main event was the over 2.5, and I got plus 140 on it. I thought that was egregious. This is just like when I bet Glover Teixeira and the over on that fight as well. The narrative, everyone and their mom is out there telling you this fight's going to be over in the first round. Well, when everybody in the whole world thinks it's going to be over, it's probably not. There's that whole thought process of going against the grain. And if the public opinion is one thing, a lot of the times they're wrong. So this was the sharpest bet that I made on the card, and I felt so good about it, especially getting it at that plus line. The over 2.5 closed at like pick'em or like minus 120 by the time the fight actually rolled around. So I got a good line. It was a sharp bet, and I knew I just needed Spencer to hang on. This thing went all 5. It was a rocking chair, and it wasn't even as bad as like Glover and Anthony. When I took that over 2.5, Glover had Anthony in a rear naked choke for the first 2 minutes of the third round. That one could have been stopped at any second and burned me. This one was, I got to sit back and high five people because Nunes was not pushing the pace, and Spencer was trying to stay away and keep the distance. It was perfect. We talk all the time about violence bets. I love betting the unders at a juicy price because anything can happen. These guys can land a submission or a knockout at any point in time. These overs are sneaky good sometimes. I am loving these over 2.5s when I get plus money on them, especially when I talked about how the threat of the takedown from Spencer was going to slow Nunes down. But man, what a performance by Nunes. Enough about me. Let's talk about Amanda Nunes. She really is the absolute greatest of all time. She is fantastic. Watching that fight, you could see her just smirking and smiling. She was hunting her prey the entire time. It was unreal to watch her do that. I mean, Spencer had no chance in that fight. And I really wish her corner had thrown in the towel because she took a crap ton of unnecessary damage. She just didn't need to take that much of a beating. And I feel really, I mean, she's a fighter. It's what she signed up for, I guess you could say. But I feel bad because her fighter, her corner could have saved her some years off of her life. You know, they just did not need to do that. So that is our recap of UFC 250. And I tried to hustle through it a little quicker this time because I spent almost a full hour on it last week. We went 7-2, minus 4.05 units. And the worst part about that is we could have ended essentially even. If I had not taken the prop bets on Ian and Aljo, if I had bet them both straight, we would have got those 2 units back in those spots. That's a 4-unit swing. We would have ended up the night 5-4 at minus 0.05 units, which essentially is walking away scot-free. So your boy messed up. I paid for it, and it's something I hope to avoid in the future. I never, ever want to do that again because I just don't need to. Like I said, that was my own damn fault that it went that way, and I can make adjustments and have that not be the case going forward. So now that you all have stuck with me through that whole thing, I really appreciate everyone hanging with me. Once again, we've got to give a shout out to the boys at GoatCapitalSports.com. They only pay me for 1 ad read, but I'm going to give them 2 because they crushed it at UFC 250. We have to give a gigantic thank you to Odds Make sure you to subscribe to the channel Odds HQ on YouTube. Head over to the Die Hard MMA podcast on YouTube. Give me a subscribe as well if you wouldn't mind. My boy, Sports Gambling Daily. We cashed 4 bets on the over 1.5 and 2.5 saved my night. That's right. I talked with my boy Jimmy the Bag when we did the roundtable for Odds HQ. He was saying to bet every single round over. Lay the wood on the 1.5. Get the even money or the plus line on the 2.5. Take the juicy plus line at the 3.5 and the 4.5 and just pray that it makes it to the cards. I thought Amanda Nunes was going to win this thing in round 4 or round 5, and she had a choke locked in, and Spencer got saved by the bell at the end of round 4. I thought they were going to throw in the towel. I thought the doctor was going to stop it. That thing should have been over. So if you had long shot bets on Nunes in round 4 and 5, that was some serious value. You almost had that. Seriously. All right, let's scroll through these comments and get caught up so we can move on to the next card. All right, that's Wham. OG, my buddy. I appreciate you, my man. Hit the like button, everybody, and subscribe to that man while you're at it. Wham OG is one of the good guys. He's one of the best guys in the sport. He's a good follow over on Twitter too. All right, here we go. That's right. Making you money over 2.5 was the pick. And that's where, like I said, it looks worse than it is. So I hate having to post. Now, again, you're always going to get honesty and transparency from me. That's what I do here. I'm not going to hide anything from you. I'm not going to fake like I cashed some, 25 unit whale bet. You're never going to see that from me. I'm going to tell you exactly what I'm betting. I'm going to bet it with you. So if you lose, I lose. You know we're in the same boat together. Betting on Neil Magny was my favorite bet of the night. Betting on the over 2.5 at plus money was my sharpest bet on the night. And those are the two that, had this not been a fun night where I decided to go nuts and bet way too many fights, I'd have had a damn good night. We would have cashed. We would have made some easy money. It would have been a phenomenal night. But got fancy, had some fun, got a little loose. It happens. On to next week. My confidence is not whatsoever damaged from that fight because I know I messed up and because I know that I made the mistakes that I made essentially voluntarily. Voluntarily? I'm not able to pronounce that right. Let's get going here. We're moving on to UFC Sakun. I think they changed the name. I'm not sure because it was supposed to be Saskatoon. However, everything is going to be at the Apex at the UFC's facility. So we're still going to be in the small cage. Always something to keep in mind. Until further notice, the small cage makes a huge, huge difference. Oh, Eric, I'm sorry. Had Nunes by submission at plus 850. That would have been a banger, buddy. I am sorry. You got robbed. Beach Boss, I only post my winners. You and a lot of others, my friend. No, I'm just kidding. I know you're not like that. So, all right, here we go. We were supposed to be in Saskatoon. I don't know what the hashtag is for this week's fight card because they haven't posted anything on social media letting us know what it's going to be. But how many times can you mix up Apex and Vegas to like make something? We're going to be in the Apex for a while. So unless they just start numbering them, it's going to be like that for a while. We kick the night off with a very, very interesting fight here. Now, I know I'm putting Jordan Griffin and Darrick Minner up on the screen behind me, but that's because the other fights aren't listed. So believe it or not, we're starting off the night with Anthony Ivy versus Christian Aguilera. And these guys are both brand new to the UFC. So Anthony Ivy was supposed to be a short notice fill-in last week, and Christian Aguilera is unknown. All right. Anthony Ivy is 8-2. Christian is going to be 13-6. And honestly, I got nothing for you on this one. Both these guys are brand new to the UFC. This card is garbage. Okay. If it wasn't for the fact that we like MMA, we love MMA so much, this is not a good card. The people who are casual fans of MMA wouldn't be surprised if most of them don't watch it because why would you? There's not a whole lot to like here, even when you're a deep-seated fan of MMA. Thank God for sports betting, because if it wasn't for sports betting, we wouldn't have much of a reason to watch either. So we're going to watch this one because there's a couple spots I like here on the card. But this is a fight that I immediately drew a line through. I want nothing to do with it. I haven't even looked at these guys. I'm not convinced that either of them is UFC caliber, and one of them got a short notice replacement, fill-in type of spot. They're honoring that. The other one is 13-6, and he's probably just the only guy that could take the fight, the nearest dude that they could get their hands on. So I'm going to do the research on this fight because I always do my research, and because maybe these guys will be something in the future. We might want to know something about them for down the road, but until that point, again, just no interest here. So I'm going to go ahead and glaze over this one. I don't have any idea what these guys are going to do. I'm not touching it from a betting perspective. Now, they do have a line out for it, though, and Anthony Ivy is a minus 195 favorite. That's something that I'm not a fan of. So when you've got two guys that are both debuting in the UFC, you draw some kind of a big line, 2-1 favorite on it like that. No, I'm not going there. I mean, maybe he wins. Maybe he is that big of a favorite because the other guy's just a complete can, but I'm not interested. So our next fight of the night, I go back to this screen here meaninglessly, is I believe... Oh, you know what? Actually, the other one is another replacement fight. So I'm going to go ahead and go in order from this point. So we do have Jourdain Griffin taking on Darrick Minner, and this one is a fun one. I always say that because to me, as a UFC nerd, they're always fun ones. But Jourdain Griffin taking on Darrick Minner. We have got a featherweight bout. Jourdain Griffin is 18-7. Darrick Minner is 23-11. And maybe the most interesting thing that we need to know about this fight is that there has already been a massive line move. So Jourdain Griffin, when I did my breakdown, he was sitting at about a minus 230 favorite, something like that. And chalk came in on him really, really heavy. And then it blew the other direction. So this is a betting show, right? We want to talk about money. We want to talk about the bets. I will get to the breakdown of the fight here in just a second. What this is I think this is sharp money coming in on Darrick Minner. So what they do is early on when the fight gets announced, when the lines first pop out, any little bet or bet from like a respected sports bettor, it moves the lines a lot. They kind of use the market to gauge where the fights or where the lines should really be. So if you follow Gianni the Greek, I got to give him a shout out here because this is where I got this information. He's a actual sports bettor, a professional, and he does a lot of movement for, he calls them betting syndicates or whatever. But anyway, they have him put in a bet on the wrong side, essentially. So that gets marked as, hey, this really sharp person likes this side. So they adjust the line, probably more than they should. And then over the course of the next couple of weeks, when they raise the amounts that you're allowed to bet, they open up the limits on the fight, they start chipping away at it at better odds on the side that they actually want. Because what I'm seeing here is Jourdain Griffin opens up at minus 230. He gets hammered all the way down to minus 350. That's a big jump. And before anybody can even make a bet on it, not a single day goes by, there's buyback on the other side of it. And then steadily over the next 3-4 days, it's been a landslide of money coming in on Darrick Minner the other direction. So this is one that, I'll be honest with you, I lean with Jourdain Griffin. I think Jourdain Griffin is the right side in this fight, but the world is basically telling us that there's value on Darrick Minner at plus odds here. Jourdain has strong body lock takedowns. He's got a really offensive submission game. That's really his best tool is his submissions. And he struggles with opponents that he doesn't have a grappling advantage against. That's really the biggest thing that I've noticed with him. So far in the UFC, he's had a bit of a rough patch. He had a good showing on Dana White's Tuesday Night Contenders, but then he got paired up with Danny Ige. Danny Ige's a beast. We've bet and cashed on Danny Ige a lot recently, so we know just how good he is. So really stiff test for Jourdain Griffin. First thing in the UFC, poor guy. Can't take down Danny Ige. Can't submit Danny Ige. Definitely can't outstrike Danny Ige. So he gets stomped. Then he faces Chaz the Scrapper Skelly. Well, Chaz Skelly is a damn good grappler himself. So Jourdain Griffin has a hard time getting that fight to the mat as well. Can't do anything with it. Loses 2 decisions back-to-back. They give him TJ Brown. Not anywhere near the caliber of opponent of the others. And he gets it done. He submits him because that's what Jourdain Griffin does. So here we go. Now we're facing Darrick Minner. Darrick Minner's been in the UFC for one fight. He loses that fight by submission. This kid is sub or bust, okay? He has 24 wins, 11 losses, and 21 of those 24 wins have come by way of submission. 8 of those 11 losses have come by submission. That's what this guy does. He gets it to the ground, he sells out, he attacks, and if he can't get there, he gasses out and he gives up a choke himself. And that's exactly what happened in his UFC debut. All he did was dive on the neck of Grant Dawson. Over and over and over. And I'm honestly worried about the IQ on this kid. And that's where one of my rules, you can't bet on a fighter who's got a bad fight IQ. I like Jourdain Griffin. He's very, very I love his aggression. He's constantly moving forward. If he was an underdog, he'd be a fantastic underdog for me to bet because he checks my boxes. He never gives up. He's always going for it. He stays in the fight. He's dangerous on the feet. He's dangerous on the mat. He can finish from anywhere. He's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage in this fight. And then we've got this kid, Darrick that I just don't know if he's UFC caliber yet. I don't know if he's ready. And the thing is, his best spot is going to be the submission game. And that's playing with fire with Jourdain Griffin. We know he gets burned when he plays with fire. So I'm going to have to say Jourdain Griffin by submission here. This is one of those ones where I'm not afraid to stand in front of the market. If I've got a read on something, like I said, I trust myself. I trust my information. I trust my own reads. And if this line gets down to the point that it's bettable, if I can get minus 130, something like that, if it turns into a pick'em, I'm taking Jourdain Griffin. But I don't know if it's going to go quite that far before there's some buyback here. What is up, everybody? Holy crap, I click away and we've got 58 live viewers. Thank you very much for tuning in. I appreciate you guys. I'm going to try and get caught up on the chat here. I apologize. I'm trying to keep the show moving so it doesn't end up being a 2.5-hour episode. And because of that, I am disregarding the chat a little bit, and I apologize. I don't want to leave you all hanging. Eric, what's up, my friend? Welcome to the show. My wins last week were Caceres plus 200. Damn, son. Congratulations on that one. Garbrandt by TKO. Very nice. Formiga and then Nunez submission victory. I mean, hey, those are all plus lines there. And you know I love doing that. If you can lock up all plus lines on all your action and then you go 2-2 or something, good night. You locked up a good night. Brandon with me on Griffin. Benoit dropping in weight. Yeah. Oh, Hold'em says they've already fought. Have they? Oh, you are right. They fought all the way back in 2018. Jourdain Griffin won by submission in the first fight. Thank you very much for pointing that out, Hold'em. I missed that little nugget. That is good to know. Revenge angle. I like it. Tony, what's going on? Welcome to the show. Thank you very much for tuning in and supporting us. That is interesting. That's definitely something that I'm going to have to keep in mind. And you know what? Honestly, that kind of sells me a little bit more on Jourdain Griffin. So one thing, hey, I'm just going to spin off right here off the top of my head. No research, no notes. One thing that we see in MMA is that a lot of times rematches go to the original winner. So I don't know what it is, but when guys match up well and they have that opportunity, that advantage, unless the other person makes some kind of drastic changes or the other person is like, for instance, a younger fighter and they've got that age advantage, there's not so much wear and tear on them, they've got a better gas tank, stuff like that, the original winner just ends up winning the second fight. So that puts me even more solidly on Griffin. If that number drops, I'm going to be interested in Griffin. Let's move on, shall we? All right. The second fight of the night is going to be Ryan Benoit versus Tyson Nam. And this is one that, again, I'm semi-interested in. I'm kind of going back and forth on this one. I'm having to be very, very careful because, again, I feel like I've got a couple of good reads this card, and I don't want to give it away by just sprinkling everything out there. Ryan Benoit is 10-6. Tyson Nam is 16-11. Two more just mid-tier journeyman type of fighters here. Ryan Benoit really works the body, and that's something that I love to see. I actually really love Benoit's game plan. I'm not sure why he hasn't done as well in the UFC as I feel like maybe he should have. He's got a good skill set, and I feel like maybe he should have done better. He's fought a decent level of competition, so maybe that's the problem. But here he's got what I think might be a winnable fight. He sets up heavy left body kicks. He's got a great power lead left hook. He works the jab. He goes jab, jab, double jab cross is one of the big combos that he likes to use a lot. And recently he changed camps. He moved over to work with Renzo Gracie's academy, and he's been training with Caitlin Chukagian, who we know she's all about volume striking and avoiding, the shots of your opponents, things like that. Maybe a good fit for someone like Benoit. The one thing that I noticed about him that I don't like is he moves straight backwards. When he gets pressed, he moves straight back, and he's open to getting hit with a right cross. It's something he gets drilled with in almost every single one of his fights. Tyson Nam on the other side of this thing, extremely big. He wades forward, relies on his power. He's really tall. He's got this awkwardly long torso, and that's something that I think is going to play right into Benoit's hands because he's not going to be able to protect it. Those body shots that Benoit comes with constantly, I think, are just going to be ripe for the picking. However, his best punch is a right cross. So if Tyson Nam is able to push forward and push Benoit back, he's got the best weapon to use against Benoit. Benoit's body shots are going to be maybe the best thing to use against Tyson Nam. And then the other thing with Tyson Nam is he just gets jabbed to death. He's low volume and he relies on that power shot. If you can jab, stick, and move and stay away from his power, you're just going to piece him up all night. That's exactly what's happened to him so far in the UFC. He's one of these guys that's kind of a star outside the UFC, but as soon as he got here, he's dropped 2 straight fights. Now, he fought a good level of competition. He fought Sergio Pettis and Kai Kara France, so really no shame there, but both of them did the same thing. They just stuck and moved, they jabbed him in the face and ran around him. He's got less output than they do. Tyson Nam is open to that, and he's 36 years old. I don't think he's going to change that at this stage. He is KO or bust, and I think that Ryan Benoit is going to have the same type of success. Ryan Benoit has 10 wins. 8 of those 10 have come by knockout. Kid is packing some serious power. However, he's alternated wins and losses in the UFC. He's been around for a long time. He got to the UFC, and he immediately starched Sergio Pettis. That's kind of what opened up everybody's eyes. They were like, whoa, this kid, like nobody knocks out Sergio Pettis. So everyone was incredibly impressed with him. And ever since then, he's kind of faltered. However, his losses came to Ben Nguyen, Brandon Moreno, who I'm very high on. And then recently he lost a very close hairy split decision to Alatang, who's not a bad fighter. So he's lost to good competition. His last fight was very, very close. And I do think he's doing the right things. He's 30 years old. He's in his prime. He's headed the right direction. I'm close to pulling a trigger on Benoit. My other look on this one, though, is I'm going to wait for the totals to come out. I might be liking an under here. Because both of these guys fill the holes in the other's game, I think there's a decent chance that somebody gets finished. Also, because recently these guys have been going to decision quite a lot, I think we're going to get a 2.5. I think they're going to put that line over under 2.5 because they've been decision machines as of late. And even if it's even money or they give us just a little bit of juice on the under, I think that might be my look here. I think I might have to roll the dice and see if one of these guys can knock the other one out and make a statement. That may be the direction that I end up going here because these guys have got the tools. They absolutely do. Benoit, I think, has a lot of upside, and I think Tyson Nam is tapped out. You know, when he's at that point, when you get to that top end and you're just not going to improve beyond that level, it's time to start fading. So those are my 2 leans here. That's the direction that I am feeling, and we are moving on to our next fight on the card. Now, this is the one that kind of threw me for a loop a little bit. Julia, Avila, Gina, Mazany. This is not the one that threw me for a loop. I apologize. There's a couple of women's fights on this card, and I'm confusing them here. So Avila, strong Muay Thai, 7-1-0. She's only messed up once so far in her UFC career. She's got a beautiful step in front kick. She has strong knees in the clinch. She goes to the body. She goes to the head. Physically powerful. When you do clinch with her, if she's at a disadvantage, she frames the face really well, which if you don't know, that's when you're jamming your elbow into the chin and neck of your opponent to get them off of you. She's very, very difficult to control. However, she controls you very, very well. On top of that, she blasts away with elbows when you're in close like that. I absolutely love to see that. And she breaks clinches with elbows. So when she's in control, she's dinking you with elbows. When you think you're getting away from her, she's dinking you with elbows. She wades in with big power shots. She's got a good stiff jab, punches and combinations, which I love to see. She's a BJJ brown belt, so she's dangerous on the feet. She's dangerous on the mat. She can do it anywhere it goes, and she's got some sick ground and pound if she gets in top position. She also has solid back control. She will backpack the crap out of you. If she gets to your back, you're in serious trouble. And she's taken on Gina Mazany, who is a 31-year-old 6-3 fighter. Now, we've talked before about these women's MMA fighters and their records. It's a very small pool of talent, so a lot of times they run into the better girls a lot earlier than the men do, and because of that, their records don't look nearly as impressive. So we can't always look into that and say that it's that much of a black mark on her record. One girl has 8 fights, the other one has 9 fights. It's not that big of a difference in experience, I guess. However, Gina Mazany is not impressive to me. She does have decent, good in and out movement. She's a heavy, heavy left cross. However, I don't think Avila is going to get caught with it. She drops her hands waiting in. That's the biggest thing that stood out to me. When she comes in to try and land her shots, she immediately dips down. She is open for the counter. She tries to grind her opponents up against the fence, and as we talked about, Avila has got that stiff elbow that she's going to be sticking straight in her neck. And then when the cage position gets reversed, Gina Mazany has a real hard time getting herself off the cage. On top of that, she gets sloppy in round 3. She gasses, she gets tired, and I have yet to see Avila get tired whatsoever. Avila is a massive favorite here. Right now, she's sitting at minus 485, minus 500. She is a huge favorite, and your boy got in early. I have Avila parlayed, and I got her when she was all the way back down at minus 300. I can't toot my own horn enough about that because I saw that one coming a mile away, and I tweeted that play out as soon as I could because we got her locked up way ahead of time. I am super excited about this play. I love to take 2 decent-sized favorites that I think are very highly likely to win, and I like to take them in a parlay. This is another one that I'm going to be looking very closely when the totals and the props come out. I think Avila destroys Mazany. I really think that Avila ends up getting some kind of a finish here. I think she knocks her out. And the couple of times that I have had a situation like this where I've been able to take a fighter, a female fighter like this, they give you lots of juice on the finish because so many women's fighters go the distance. So many of them go to decision. They will still give you a good number on that fighter finishing inside the distance. So I would keep an eye out for the props. I would keep an eye out for the totals. I'm planning on taking a look at them myself because if you didn't get that good number, you might be able to play it a little sneaky the other way. I think she's going to take out Mazany. I think Mazany's being brought in to kind of give her a leg up. I don't know that she's going to have any more success here than she had the first time. She got kicked out of the UFC after a couple of losses. She's been TKO'd a couple of times. She went out to the regional scene. She got one good win in. She got a submission win. But I don't think that she's submitting the brown belt in Avila. I don't think she'll be able to control her against the fence or get her on the mat and hold her down. And I don't think she's going to be the better fighter. Well, yeah, Pat, nutso odds. My boy Nick agreeing. Avila going to smoke Mazany. And everybody on the same page on that one. Here we go. That's an interesting take. I'm thinking of taking Hanna Cifers. We will look at that one in a bit. All right, we're caught up on the chat. Thank you all very much for participating. Thank you all for being here with us this evening. I appreciate you. Let's get rolling on the next fight. We are getting on to Charles Boston Strong Rosa versus Kevin, the Angel of Death Aguilar. Charles Rosa, 12-4-0. Kevin is 17-3-0. This is a weird fight because both of these guys were one-time prospects. Both of these guys had a whole lot of upside to them and then just kind of fell off the map. So Boston Strong, he disappeared with those injuries a couple of years ago, took 2 long years off after his bad loss to Shane Burgos, comes back and gets an upset win over Manny Bermudez. We all know what happened there. He stuck his toes through the fence. Maybe he shouldn't have locked that armbar off. Maybe the referee should have stopped the fight. But either way, he gets it. He bounces back. He has me sold, and I got swindled. I bet on Charles Boston Strong Rosa against Thug Nasty. One of the biggest mistakes I've made this year so far. Thug Nasty completely schools him just a couple of months ago. Rosa had nothing on the map for Thug Nasty, but he showed off his submission defense. Dude is incredibly slick when it hits the mat. He knows how to keep himself safe. He knows how to work a guard. He can get his guard back. He doesn't really try to get back to his feet, though. That's something that I see that I think is a bit of a problem. I like Charles Rosa's ground game a lot. However, his striking game is a big question mark. He circles out well. He attacks leg kicks well. And then he kind of blitzes in from a range. And the problem is he ducks his head down and he wings these big overhand shots. And he just doesn't seem to have a lot of power. Even though it looks like he's landing hard, even though it looks like he's hitting a lot, he doesn't seem to rock anybody. I just don't think he's got that God-given gift of power. And the same thing with the leg attacks. He kicks low kicks, he kicks leg kicks, and that's such a staple of the game. We've talked about it at the beginning of the show, how Perez used that to take out Formiga. Very important, very powerful tool. However, he has yet to do anything with it. He uses leg kicks in every single fight, but he doesn't slow anybody down. I just think he's got no pop on his punches. Kevin Aguilar on the flip side of this thing, very light on his feet. He also works the low calf kick. However, his is very, very powerful. and he feints level changes, which is going to keep people on their toes. I love that. The threat of the takedown, that's something I talk about a lot. It opens up paths. It opens up other opportunities for your striking. If you make people think, hey, he might dip in for a takedown here. He's got a very explosive right hand, good tight boxing, and a big heart. This guy never quits. And you know what? That's something I can't take away from Rosa. They both have massive hearts. Neither of them give up. The spots that Rosa was in against Thug Nasty his last time out, a lot of other people would have given up their neck. A lot of other people would have been like, just let this end, because he got embarrassed on a national stage. He kept coming. So I can't say that just Aguilar has heart. They both have heart. He has excellent takedown defense and a very, very strong get-up game. Bear with me just 1 second here. I got to get my stats up for this. When I do the show live, it's a lot harder to keep up with my mouth, because I'm trying to talk and not bore you guys to death while I'm pulling up the stats and information that I need to quote at you. So I didn't have this one up and ready to go, but I want to make sure I actually quote these stats correctly for this one. So Kevin Aguilar actually has a phenomenal 86% takedown defense. He's had 4 UFC fights, so it's a decent sample size, and he's gone to decision in 3 of them. So that means he's got 3 full 15-minute fights that we're able to pull that kind of information from. He fought Dan Ige, Enrique Barzola, and Ricky Glenn, as well as Tuhugov. 3 of those 4 names are very solid, strong wrestlers. The fact that he's been able to keep the fight where he wants it, defend the takedowns when he needs to, and have an 86%, that's big time. That is big time to me. He averages 3.73 significant strikes a minute. However, he's absorbed 4.44 significant strikes per minute. That's been to Tuhugov and Ige. He fought very closely with his first 2 UFC opponents that he had unanimous decision wins over, and the 2 step-ups in competition that he's had so far, he was outclassed on the feet, and that's really what leads to that difference. In MMA, sometimes the numbers lie. We have to be able to piece together what exactly happened. You've got to watch the tape, and you've got to know how the fight played out, because if you just look at the numbers, there's a lot of misinformation in MMA, and you've got to be able to sniff that out. And that's one of those things that I feel like the strike differential for Aguilar is not quite as bad as it looks on paper right now. Charles Rosa, on the flip side of this thing, averages 3.21 significant strikes per minute, so a decently lower workout rate than Aguilar, and he absorbs 3.96. So he has been outlanded essentially his entire UFC career, and those numbers are not overly skewed. I don't see a problem with them. So he generally just doesn't do so hot on the feet. He has a 40% takedown defense. He is willing to accept bottom because he's so confident in his ground game, he's willing to go to his back. He averages 2.35 takedowns over the course of a 15-minute fight on average, and he averages a 34% takedown accuracy. So those numbers aren't awful. He does go for the takedown. He goes for a lot, getting it over 30%, averaging that many takedowns. It's a good sign. This guy scores well. He grapples well. He gets it to the mat. However, I think he's running into a brick wall here. I don't think he's going to be able to take Kevin Aguilar down. And because of that, he's going to be completely outclassed on the feet. Now, what we've got here is Aguilar is a minus 160 favorite. The comeback on Rosa is plus 140. And Rosa's making a quick turnaround. He's coming off that Thug Nasty loss. He's looking to erase that from people's memories. He's looking to kind of right the ship and get things going again. And I just don't know that he's got it. I mean, he's 33 years old. He's kind of a busted prospect at this point. At 31, Kevin Aguilar, he can get back on the horse. But I think Rosa's getting into that territory of being a stepping stone. And I like Charles Rosa. Part of me is kind of rooting for him. But I think Kevin Aguilar's got this one. I don't know that I want to lay minus 160 on it, though. So we're going to have to watch this one closely. I'm kind of hoping some money comes in on Rosa. I've seen a lot of people picking Rosa, and I don't think it's a good matchup for him. So we'll see where this line goes as to whether or not I make any kind of a play. Yeah, Just Bleed MMA saying I think Aguilar is going to work Rosa. I completely agree. Oh, we're talking about the Cifers fight. Yeah. Mo Scream TV, my boy, what is up here, buddy? Thank you very much for joining in. I appreciate it. Yep, all right. We're about caught up there then. Thank you guys for keeping the chat rolling. I appreciate all the banter going on in the chat. It's fun when everybody gets in, engages, and has a good time. All right, so let's move on to the next fight. That's my lean there. I'm thinking I'm probably going to bet Kevin Aguilar. It's just a matter of how and when and at what line, but I'm going to keep an eye on it very, very closely. That's one I'm intrigued by. Heading back over to the card here, we got to head to the main card. Here we go. It's kind of a short fight night, but that's okay. Jourdain Espinosa takes on Mark De La Rosa, and this one's good. This one's good. I've seen a whole lot of people out there with different hot takes on this one, and I'm very curious to see. I know I do a podcast myself. I do a ton of time, putting information out there, doing my research, watching tape, but I'm a huge podcast fan. So I listen to a lot of the other MMA podcasts that you all likely listen to as well. And I love hearing what other people have to say. This is one that I think there's going to be a lot of split on. I've seen a fair few people already backing Mark De La Rosa here. So let's start with the line, okay? We have got Mark De La Rosa coming in as a plus 135 dog. He opened up at plus 135. It kind of spiked. Money came in early the other direction, and now it's flattened back down. Now, that's kind of what I was talking about before, where we've got that line movement situation. It feels like maybe the sharps are trying to get a better number on the guy that they actually like. But I don't know if that's what's happening here, because it wasn't that big of a move. Usually, I feel like when you see that, now again, I'm speculating here because I don't have contact with these people. I don't know for certain, but usually when you see that, it's a big jump. Really significant amount of money. Mark De La Rosa went from being a plus 135 to a plus 145. It's a 10-cent move. Totally normal in the world of MMA. And then it came back and it settled at plus 135 again. I don't know if anybody's getting that tricky with this kind of a fight. I feel like that might be normal buyback type of line movement. So we've got Jourdain Espinosa, 14-7, taking on Mark De La Rosa, 11-4. Not great looking for either of them. Both of them coming off some losses. Jourdain Espinosa coming off a 2-fight skid. Mark De La Rosa, 3-fight skid. This kid, I'm surprised he's getting the call back in this fight. I honestly thought that the UFC dropped him. Now, his wife, the Mrs. De La Rosa, is in the UFC and doing quite well for herself. So maybe they want to give him one more opportunity to win to keep that UFC couple thing going. That's good publicity right there. Maybe he's got some connections. He's somebody's cousin. I don't know. But I really didn't think he was going to get the call back, especially the way he lost his last fight, getting knocked dead by Julian Paiva. So Jourdain Espinosa, very, very athletic. This dude is fast. He fights well at range. He closes the distance well, and he lands leg and body kicks. It's those big, explosive linebacker thighs that he throws with such speed. He does have some Edson Barboza-style spinning shit that he throws, but he keeps his hands low. He's kind of got that Anderson Silva thing going on where it's all about the reaction time and the speed, that he just relies on the fact that you can't hit him. So he keeps his hands down to kind of bait you in and then counter. Mark De La Rosa, he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He has good, solid technical boxing, and he's willing to stay in the pocket and trade. However, this kid is not athletic. He's not very fast. He doesn't hit very hard. He struggled with the reach of Paiva, and he just doesn't seem to have that much pop on his punches. He does have a nice double leg. He enters very, very well, and if he gets deep on your hips, he can get you to the mat. If he gets you against the cage or he gets you to the ground, he does transition to the back very, very well. However, getting to the mat is the problem. He's been stopped or dropped in both of his previous fights by a big, big right hand. That seems to be his weakness. I don't know what it is, but he got dropped by Kai Kara-France with an overhand right, a cross, and then he got dropped by Paiva and knocked out dead with the same exact punch. He also struggles with the low kicks. So the fact that Jourdain Espinosa is going to have a decent speed advantage here, he's going to have a reach advantage here, he's going to have a size advantage here, I'm not sold on Mark De La Rosa. When he first got to the UFC, I was on him. I liked betting this kid because Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, good boxing. Like, I thought the sky was the limit for him, that he had lots of room to improve. And now I've seen that I think he's a guy that's got all the skills in the world and is just physically limited. I think he's like, this is kind of a bad example because she's doing quite well, but like Roxanne Modafferi, there's a certain level that she's never going to get to in the sport of MMA because she's unathletic. And she can improve, she can make changes, she can get her technique up there, but she won't ever be champion because you've got to be a beast of an athlete to beat some of these people. And I think that's where Mark has a glass ceiling, because he's just not that much of an athlete. This is a bad opponent for him, in my opinion, because I think Jourdain Espinosa is going to be able to run circles around him. Jourdain Espinosa has 7 wins by submission, 2 KOs, 5 decisions, and this is where it gets a little sketchy. He's got 4 losses by submission as well. So that's kind of his main weapon. He out-athletics people. That's a terrible way of saying that, but that's how it works. He's a better athlete than his opponents, and that's how he wins decisions. But even for that speed, even for that advantage, he just doesn't knock people out, which is big, big, big reason for caution. Mark De La Rosa is a good, solid Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu player. So Jourdain Espinosa is going to be nowhere near a submission win here. There's no way he finishes Mark De La Rosa by sub. De La Rosa, on the other hand, can very easily finish Jourdain Espinosa by submission. So I have a problem on this one. I think this is going to end up being a pass for me because of that. I want to take Espinosa. That's the side that I lean to. He's a slight favorite, minus 155-ish, and I think that's a fair price for him. I don't think Mark De La Rosa bounces back here. I've heard a lot of people talking about how live he is. I just think he's going to have a hard time hitting Jourdain Espinosa. And even when he does hit Jourdain Espinosa, he's not going to get that respect. He doesn't have the pop on his punches to knock a guy like that out. And Jourdain Espinosa, for all of his faults, he's never been knocked out. The two last guys that he fought, Matt Danger Schnell, who I'm super high on, crazy fast, crazy athletic, hits like a freaking truck. He wrecks him in the first round and then triangle chokes him. And then Alex Perez, which we just talked about, insanely fast, insanely athletic. He does the same exact thing. He hurts this guy on the feet, catches him, gets him to the mat, sinks up an arm triangle. So both of those guys were able to use a speed advantage and grit and a strength advantage to get their hands on this guy and then rip him to the mat and put him in a bad position. I just don't think Mark has that opportunity. So if you're betting Mark De La Rosa, good luck to you. I will cheer for you. I hope you win it. I'm probably going to pass here, but I just really don't see how he utilizes that strength of his, because if he gets it to the mat, he's live. But if he doesn't get into the mat, he's dead. So good freaking luck. Let's move on here to the next fight. This is one that I'm pumped about. Oh, you know what? I got to address that real quick. So first off, Espinosa all day. I'm not high on Espinosa's fight IQ. I agree. Absolutely agree. That's one of the reasons why I'm not able to put my money behind him. The IQ is a huge question. The fact that he knows what he's doing, he knows what his weaknesses are, and he still falls into these situations, can't really trust it. I can't trust either of these guys here. A lot of this card, because of how low level these competitors are, they're going to be fun fights. They're going to be fun scraps. But honestly, I'm going to look at targeting totals. And speaking of which, this is the perfect opportunity to plug my new show with odds.com. That is right. My subscriber, odds.com, subscribe to Odds HQ after you hit that thumbs up like button. We are doing a brand new show that we call MMA Total Madness. I'm going to come on later in the week and we're going to talk about the totals, because right now when I do this podcast, I can break down the matchups. I can break down the early lines, give you my leans, give you my thoughts, but we don't know where the bookmakers are at. We're going to come back later in the week after they release the props and totals, and we're going to go back over these fights with the information that we have at that point in time and maybe try to lock in a few extra bets when we take a look at those totals and talk through it a second time. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you hit that subscription notification so you can be here for the show. Andre Touchy Fili taking on Charles Air Jourdain. This is a fight, folks. This is one of those ones that is going to fly under the radar for the public. This is one of the fights that they're going to be like, him, I don't really know either of these guys. They both look kind of bums. Like, no one's going to get it. This is a phenomenal fight. This might be, I was going to say it might be the highest level fight on the card, but I guess not. Close. Close, but I guess not. So Andre Touchy Fili, 20-7. Charles Jourdain, 10-2. The UFC newcomer. Touchy Fili is coming off a unanimous decision loss to Sodiq Yusuff, but he impressed. He really impressed in that fight. You don't fight well with Sodiq Yusuff and come off looking bad. Sodiq is a beast and maybe a future title contender, challenger, winner. Sodiq is a monster. So the fact that Andre Fili was able to go 15 minutes straight with that guy, he rocked him a couple of times. Fili's come a long, long way in his career. I've got a hard time with him, though, because he's another guy that seems to kind of do this. Depends on which Fili shows up. On his best night, he's knocking out Shayman Moraes and looking like a world champion. On his best night, he's going toe-to-toe with Sodiq Yusuff. On his worst night, he's life and death with Michael Johnson. On his worst night, he's barely getting one over on Artem Lobov. Like, this guy can be incredible. And other times, he's just not so incredible. He's got great leg kicks, a good, long, crisp jab. That's something that he uses quite well and is very, very dangerous in this fight, actually, is that jab of his. He's one of the people that knows how to use his range. That's something that you got to look for, because A lot of people have a reach advantage and simply don't know how to use it. He's one that does. He ducks well under punches. He's got good vision, good eyes. He can see stuff coming. He looks to body lock with his opponents, and from there he can take you down. He's got strong blast doubles. He doesn't check leg kicks, though. And one thing that I've noticed with him is that if you can keep him from settling into a groove, he's kind of like Cowboy Cerrone. If he has time to feel his opponent out, if he's got the opportunity to get in there and get comfortable, get the timing, he's insanely dangerous. But if you keep him uncomfortable, if you keep him on his back heel, you keep him thinking, he has a hard time adjusting. Charles Jourdain is insanely aggressive. This kid comes in with leg and body kicks firing constantly. He finishes combos up with leg kicks very, very similar to Justin Gaethje. That's right, the highlight, the champ. He comes in, he throws a combo, and even if he's like in close with you where it doesn't feel like a leg kick should come from, he'll drill you with one. He has good, powerful knees in the clinch. He rips the body with hooks. Another thing I talked about before, I love when people attack the body. It's money in the bank for later when your opponent doesn't have gas in the third round and you do because you've been ripping them to the ribcage the entire night. That's money, baby. So big, big power hooks. As soon as he gets the feel for his opponent's range, he swings for the fences. And kind of like what we saw with Cody Garbrandt, where as soon as he knows his timing, as soon as he's got that down, that's when he goes for that, not before. He blitzes in with straight lefts down the middle, which I think is going to work well against Fili's high boxing guard, and he defends the takedowns very well also. My concern here is a grappling advantage for Fili. He's an alpha male product. He trains with a bunch of monsters on the ground. He's got the opportunity to get this thing to the mat because we don't know a whole ton about Charles Jourdain's ground game once he gets there because he doesn't really utilize it a ton. Fili has a 74-inch reach, and Charles Jourdain has a 69-inch reach. So that 5-inch reach advantage for Fili is also something that we need to take into effect here. Fili averages 4 significant strikes per minute, but he absorbs 3.96, meaning this guy rumbles. He always gets in there, and he is willing to eat a shot, to land a shot, to try to put you down. He averages 2.49 takedowns per 15 minutes with a 45% accuracy, and he's got a 69% takedown defense rating himself. I don't know that that's going to matter because my boy Jourdain don't go for takedowns. Jourdain averages 4.85 significant strikes per minute. He's only got 2 UFC fights, so it's a very small sample size. So we're not exactly sure just how accurate these numbers are. But so far, he's basically traded well with his opponents also. He's absorbed 4.89 significant strikes per minute. He does have a decision loss to Des Green, which that was his UFC short notice debut. He was... I mean, you're stepping up into the bright lights. We talk about that all the time. I like to fade people's first time in the UFC because you have that big adrenaline dump. It's a whole new level. You're getting your eyes open to the next level, next stage of competition. Losing a decision there to a dangerous guy like that, fighting well with him for 3 full rounds. There's no real shame in that, but he gave up 4 takedowns, and that's where I said that's kind of my concern here. But then he wrecked Doo Ho Choi. Did exactly what he needed to against the Korean Superboy and absolutely exposed him. Outlanded him by 20 significant strikes, put him down in round 2, and we cashed in big as a dog on that one. Charles Jourdain is being disrespected, folks. This is going to be a very, very close fight. The kid's insanely talented. I've been stalking him on Instagram. You know I love my stalking online. This kid is in shape. I think during the quarantine, he has packed on some serious poundage. The dude is ready to go, and I am buying in. That's all there is to say about it. I am buying in on Charles Air Jourdain. I think this kid has got something special. I think he's got dynamite in his hands. And the fact that he is so aggressive and he counters well with his opponents, he gets reads down quickly, he gets the timing. I think he's going to press forward on Andre Fili. And I think he's going to be able to do exactly what he needs to do. Like I said, if you keep Fili on the back foot, if you keep him uncomfortable in the fight, he's going to provide openings. And the fact that this guy trades with his opponents, Jourdain's a guy that's got power you don't want to trade with. I think these two are going to bang until somebody falls. And I got plus 195 on my boy Jourdain. I love that line. It's almost like the Kelleher fight, except that I know for a fact Jourdain's going to have opportunities to land those bombs. So I'm going to flip that coin. I got plus 195, and if memory serves correctly, that line has already come down. Yeah, plus 185, plus 175. I still see a plus 191 out there. So you can still get him as a decent-sized dog, but we beat an early line move. I like having plus 195, and I hope it doesn't come back to bite me in the ass. Sharp money may come in, or not sharp money, but a lot of money may come in the other way because Fili is a much more named fighter. So there's a half decent chance that you get more dog money later in the week, closer to fight time. But I went ahead and locked it up early because I don't want to be on the wrong side of it. When I'm getting plus 200-ish on a dog that I like in that type of a spot, I don't like to wait. I know that's not the sharpest thing in the world to do, and that's what I said. I'm not a professional sports bettor, but I don't want to wait and have it drop down because, like right now, if I had to take plus 180 on him instead of plus 195, I'd be kicking myself. Like, son of a bitch. Like, I stared at it. I picked him. I think he's going to win it. I like it, and I didn't pull the trigger, and now I'm missing out on 15 extra cents. Like that. I just hate that feeling. It pisses me off so much every single time. Let's go back here. That was a bit of a hot take, and I know a lot of people are going to be excited about that dog bet. So let's see what's going on. CJ, welcome to the show. Thank you very much, my friend, for tuning in. I like Charles Jourdain. The fight's going the distance. He's a good kickboxer, striking good game. That's right. Oh, you think that fight's going the distance? All right, T-Man. All right. That's an interesting take. I mean, the way that Fili hurt a guy like Sodiq Yusuff, who's known for his chin, I have seen Jourdain get clipped a couple of times, and the power that Jourdain brings to the table, I don't know. I feel like it's the opposite, man. I feel like someone's going to sleep. We'll see where they put that total line, though, because that's going to be interesting. There it is. Hold'em says Fili going to murk Jourdain. Yep. Choi was a good matchup for Jourdain. That's true. Jourdain could be a one-hitter quitter. Yep, that's also true. Razor Sharp Picks. What's going on? Thank you for tuning in here and the kind words about the show. I appreciate it. If Sodiq couldn't do it, I don't think Jourdain can. I mean, that's possibly true, but it's also a different style. I mean, that's where I think that Jourdain is probably going to drop the gloves and they're just going to go to war. He's not going to try and take Fili down, where Sodiq spent a lot of time grappling in that fight. So it's going to be an interesting setup here. Fili got questionable fight IQ at times. Also true. So he got clipped. Yes, he did. And that's what I'm talking about. The power on these guys. It's going to be interesting. But I'm with my man, T-Man. We are going to roll the dice on that dog with that extra money. I was high on Fili, but the line is really off. Fight doesn't go the distance. Interesting prop. I agree. Absolutely agree. And I always got to give this shout out. I know it's way late in the show, but if you're listening to the audio only version of this and I sound like I've lost my mind because I'm just kind of talking to myself right now, I'm interacting with the chat. The show now has an interactive chat function, folks. So if you're listening audio only, get your ass over to YouTube, get your ass on Periscope or Twitch and come hang out with me, because then you can have me talking to you and giving my responses to your questions. Instant gratification. We all love that, right? Merab Dvalishvili versus Borg. Borg can't catch a break, folks. This poor guy. So he's supposed to be fighting down at 125. He's too fat. Can't do it. He can't make the weight. And because he missed weight so many times, the UFC is basically set an ultimatum saying, hey, you got to get your ass back up to 135 because you can't keep missing weight like this and having an unfair advantage. So he moves up to 135 and he's just too small. I don't know what the deal is, but the dude's got to get his weight under control because he is too small to implement his game plan at 135. We broke down his fights very, very recently when he fought Ricky Simon, and that's kind of what we were talking about. Dude's got hands. He's got a surprisingly good boxing skill set. He's very fast, very athletic on his feet, but if he can't out-grapple you, he's in trouble. He needs to be able to bully his opponents. He needs to be able to take these fights to the ground. And that's all he does is mat return people. When he takes you to the mat, he kind of lets you work your way back up. And just when you think you're safe, he flattens you right back out. Like, you're always going to be fighting this uphill battle with Borg. I love the dude's durability. I love his ability to grapple. But this is a worse matchup than he had before. I said that Ricky Simon is maybe the worst matchup in the division for him, and I guess I lied because Dvalishvili is the best wrestler in the division. He's a dark horse. He's the guy that might be challenging for the title that nobody sees coming, that nobody knows about. The way he handled Casey Kinney in his last fight was absolutely unreal. I mean, they call him the machine for a reason. This guy never stops. So getting Borg, a guy who relies on his grappling, against a dude who is bigger than him, physically stronger than him, having a better gas tank than him, he has every single checkbox checked that's going to cause problems for Borg. And Dvalishvili's got a good chin. So it's not like Borg's going to come in here and flash KO him because he's going to suddenly be able to land a big shot. Like, He's not gonna. Borg only has one knockout on his entire career. One. And I want to say it was ground and pound. And I also want to say it wasn't in the UFC. Yeah, all the way back in 2013. He got his hands on somebody back in 2013 that he could knock out. No way this kid. Okay, now I'm saying no way. Remember I talked about before, we can't quantify these things and you can't underestimate humans. Watch, Ray Borg's going to come out and land on the button of Dvalishvili and put him out flat in like the second round. And y'all are going to be like, you dumb shit. Dvalishvili anchors my parlay, folks. I opened up a parlay earlier in the show, and I had Julia Avila. I am closing that parlay with Merab Dvalishvili. And folks, this is a two-banger. When I set that parlay up earlier, I got minus 123 on it, and I am going to double down. I am laying 2.46 units to win 2 on this parlay. I love this parlay. I see both of these guys. Now, again, we don't use the L word here at the Die Hard MMA podcast. We don't say the L word. But if there were locks on this card, I think these two are them. Because Dvalishvili beats Ray Borg literally everywhere. The flash KO threat is not there. Ray Borg's got to be in an offensive position to be able to land a submission. That's not there either. Same thing on the flip side with Avila. Avila is better everywhere. Now, she might be able to get caught because it's women's MMA. You never know. Every once in a while, something like that will happen in those kinds of fights. But I really don't see it happening. So these are my 2 L's of the card, if they are such a thing can be said. And I'm doubling down on that parlay. I think that's a good one. And I'm looking forward to it. I think that's a casher right there. Let's see what everybody's got to say about this one. Let's see here. Yeah, Ray Borg is KO or bust. The only problem with that cream on her is that he's got no KO. My boy Tommy's saying, I don't know how people still bet on Borg, and that's where I'm sitting. I have no idea how people are betting on Borg here, because if he has got a size advantage, if he's got a wrestling advantage, if he's got a cardio advantage, yes, bet the shit out of Borg. But at 135, when he's going up against more physical wrestlers than he is, that's checkmate. He has no plan B. That's all he's got. Merab for a new takedown record. Yeah, you know what? And I don't think that that's even going to happen because, I'm sorry, takedown record. I thought you meant takedown defense record. Yeah, Merab's going to set a takedown record on Ray Borg because that's just unreal. And his win against Kenny is really the one that opened up my eyes. I bet on Kenny in that fight. I knew it was a long shot, but I thought that Kenny might be able to pull it out. I love that kid. I'm very impressed with him. But yeah, Dvalishvili is just way too much to handle. And I agree with you. I do think Kenny's going places. I think he is going to be a household name as well. Spencer, let's pour some Fireball, baby. Let's go. I know everybody makes fun of me for loving my Fireball, but I'm sorry. If you guys had the bachelor party I did, yeah, other alcohol is ruined for me. That's all I can handle. Brandon tuning in here. Definitely parlay material. Yep. All right, Gregory, let's roll. Let's get it. And Brandon liking Fili this week. We'll be head-to-head on that one, but that's okay. I totally understand. That's the thing. The Fili fight, I think that one, it's kind of like a I'm blanking. It's kind of like a Nico Price fight, right? That one could go either way because both guys can land the kill shot. Both guys can land the KO. I'm going to roll the dice on the dog because I'm much more comfortable adding that extra dog money to my bet than laying the wood on it when I think someone's going to sleep. But I totally see why you're taking Fili there. Borg has some fast hands. You're right, and it is too bad he didn't let him go sooner. I think he could have impressed with those things in some of his other fights, but not this one. Doesn't matter in this one. So what we've got to do here real quick, folks, is backtrack because I thought this fight was going to be listed on the UFC site, and apparently it's not. So this is not where this fight belongs in the lineup, but we've got Hanna Cifers taking on Mariya Agapova. This is a short notice replacement fight. Agapova's opponent fell out, and Hanna Shockwave Cifers is filling in. So I apologize. I know we're getting to the co-main and the main event. We're getting to the good and exciting stuff, and we're going to take a big step down here to talk about these two. But this is also another good, solid, interesting fight, in my opinion. So Hanna Cifers, she belongs at 105. It's plain and simple as that. She is small, and we cashed in fading her on a parlay, not last fight week, but the week before that. Real fast turnaround for her. She's fighting at 115. I'm sorry. She's fighting at 115, usually, and she should fight at 105. This fight is at 125. So she's fighting 2 full weight classes above where she normally does. She is light on her feet. She's got good inside and outside leg kicks. And for her size, she has good power. She fights best in the pocket, and she combines finish. She uses her combinations. Geez, I'm just butchering this line. I am so sorry. I wish I had an editor and I wasn't doing this live. She finishes combinations with leg kicks. I love seeing that. Honestly, I'm a huge fan of Shockwave. However, she's limited. She's another one of these girls that I think at a certain point, the athleticism is just going to be too much. And especially because if there was a 105-pound division, she'd be very competitive in there. She's small for 115. She's tiny for 125. She absolutely struggled with the range of Angela Hill. And Hill had like a 4 or 5 inch reach advantage on her, and she doesn't move her head. That's a big problem. She has good footwork, but her head doesn't budge. Mariya, on the other hand, this is going to be her UFC debut. She trains out of ATT. This girl is fantastic. She's a fast starter. She's going to have a 6.5 inch reach advantage here. She keeps her hands low, but she has good movement, good head movement, so it's not a problem like some of these other people who drop their hands. It's not a mistake. I think she is welcoming her opponent's shots. She has a big body kick. Big, good, accurate shot to the liver, and I've seen her use it a lot in her other fights. In Invicta, she was wrecking girls. She's extremely aggressive. She flurries with her hands down, so she is hittable. She can get caught, but she's got a good, solid chin. She's like 23 years old. I've never seen her rocked. She's taken some big shots, but it doesn't seem to slow her down one bit. She's got big ground and pound. If she ends up on top of you, it's over. And she's been training with my girl, Jillian Robertson. Y'all know, maybe to a fault, I love Jillian Robertson. I think that that's a good answer for some of the ground game threats that other people will offer. Obviously not Hanna Cifers, but good training partner to have. She does give up takedowns up against the cage. She can get her hips sucked out from underneath her, but that's against good grapplers and people her size that can match her for strength. She gives up her back in order to get up. That's an issue, but I don't think she has an opponent that's going to make her pay for it. She's got a good rear naked choke, but she only ends up on the ground in scrambles. She doesn't go for takedowns herself. She is a striker. She wants to keep this thing standing. So BetOnline is the only book that I see with a line on this fight, and I completely agree with it. They've got Mariya as a -255 favorite. Hanna Cifers is +215. If anything, I think there's still value on Agapova. I know that she's unproven. I know that she's not tested or anything like that at this point, but Hanna Cifers is 2 weight classes below her. There was a fight a couple of fights back where one of the chicks that I'm really high on in the UFC, and I'm struggling with the names here, I do apologize. It was a very similar situation. She's small for the weight class, and she moved up a weight class to take a short notice fight. Her opponent was a big woman for that weight class, had a massive height and reach advantage on her, and even though she was the more skilled fighter, she was just so out-physicaled that she stood no chance. And this girl cashed as a big underdog, and I missed a blind opportunity to make some easy money there. This is the same situation, except the books aren't making the same mistake. They made the right girl the favorite. Hanna Cifers has got good power. She's got good opportunity. She's got good combos. I like her a lot. She's got some upside. However, I don't see how she wins this fight. I mean, if she hurts Agapova, she's going to have to hurt her badly and get her on the mat and be able to hold her down and TKO or something like that. But after getting her leg snapped off in her last fight, I don't think she wants anything to do with the ground. She's going to be at that size disadvantage, and she's just a striker. All she wants to do is strike and trade, and she has been outlanded by her UFC opponents over the course of her career. And Mariya's very, very aggressive. This is another one that I'm going to take a sneaky look at later on, especially join me for my MMA Total Madness show later in the week. We're going to look at an under, folks. With the way women's fights goes, usually they're going to give you a 2.5. Usually it's going to be chalk to the over. They expect it to go all 15 minutes. And I think Mariya Agapova is going to destroy Hanna Cifers. However, betting on an under gives us the opportunity for Hanna to pull the upset. That gives us the opening for Hanna to land that big power shot, because Agapova keeps her hands low and make her pay for that and welcome her to the new level of competition. So that may be the direction I'm going. I'm kind of torn between parlaying Agapova and taking an under. I'm going to wait until that under comes out. I'm going to see where this line goes. And I'm going to make my mind up on some of the other smaller favorites that I like on the card, because I might end up just parlaying Agapova as a backup. We will see. So let's get this damn thing back on track, shall we? Because now we're heading over to the co-main event. We've got a rematch of a fight that never happened. We've got Karl Roberson, Baby K, taking on Marvin Vettori. And I'm high on Vettori. This is another one that we broke down very, very recently because it was supposed to happen a couple cards ago. Something happened with Karl Roberson. He didn't get cleared by the doctors, and they called the fight off. And Vettori took some serious offense to that. Now, if Vettori is a young, emotional kid and he got hot, there's that fun video of them getting into it out in the the lobby of the hotel that they were both staying at because he thought that Karl Roberson was trying to duck him or something like that. And I put out some joking tweet on Twitter about him ducking him just to mess with my boy Bro Picks. I don't know if he's still in the chat here, but if he is, that was a needle headed your direction, buddy. I was just messing with you. So Baby K is not afraid of Karl Roberson. I'm sorry, he's not afraid of Marvin Vettori. They set this fight back up as soon as they could. And yeah, this thing is going to be a banger. So Marvin Vettori, he is 26 years old, lots of room to grow yet, not even in his prime, 14-4. Baby K, 9-2, 29 years old, same situation. These are two young up-and-coming prospects that have lots of room to grow in their fights. And Baby K seems to be a finisher. I mean, he's got only 9 wins, but 4 submissions, 2 knockouts, big striking. Dude's got big, big power, but he's still a dangerous threat on the ground. Vettori has 8 submissions to his name as well, and he's got a very, very basic but well-rounded striking game. This is the kid that went a full 15 minutes with Israel Adesanya when he was new to the UFC, and that's something that really like popped my eyes that, you know, that was kind of a crossroads fight, and if Marvin had got the nod on that split decision, who knows where this thing goes? Because if he gets that win, I mean, he's put 2 more wins together since then. I think it's good for him that he took that loss because I think he's going to rise to higher heights since he got that first taste of loss in the UFC. I'm sorry, not the first taste. He's lost before, but you know what I mean? Like, he's on the right track. He loses. It kind of makes him reset, rethink. He's growing and he's getting better because of it. Really love how well-rounded this kid is on the feet. I love how dangerous he is once the fight hits the ground. And I think he's very, very intelligent. I trust his decision-making. I trust his IQ. He's very durable. I like Marvin Vettori. I don't like the price, though. Karl Roberson is the kind of guy that you can take a flyer on as a big dog. And I know my buddy Justin, UFC Bro Picks, he's on this kid. And I know why. I mean, he's got some slick striking. He's got power in his hands. He's got the ability to finish once he gets the fight to the ground. So if he rocks you, if he knocks you down, he can jump on you and put you away. He's got some serious upside. Baby K is a legitimate threat. And getting plus 180, plus 175 on a guy like that, I can see it. But what I'm looking at is maybe using Vettori in a parlay with the fighter that we had just talked about that's filling in. I'm totally blanking. Agapova, sorry. That's kind of the parlay that I'm taking a look at. You'll get just about even money on that one, and I think it might be worth taking a unit shot because I do think Vettori wins. I think he's going to be able to be physically stronger than Baby K. We've seen that Baby K has struggled with the ground game when he took that short notice step up to face Glover Teixeira. Obviously, that was at 205, but I think Marvin Vettori is smart enough to see that he can be controlled on the mat that way. I think Vettori takes him down. I think Vettori wrestles him. He can stay safe on the feet and then maybe lock up a submission late when Baby K gasses out or just grind out a 15-minute decision. So I like Vettori here. I'm not in love with the price, and I don't know this fight gets finished. This is one of those ones that I might be looking at a sneaky over rather than a sneaky under. So I'm looking forward to breaking down that when the totals get out. But I'm definitely in the corner of Marvin Vettori. Let's see. Didn't know if it was 125 or higher weight. Yeah. So she's coming up 2 weight classes, which is wild. Yeah, Brandon saying this might be another one of those L words. Exactly. We got to be careful with those L words, but it's true. Stank, what's up? Welcome to the chat. How did she come back so fast? Her legs were broken last match. Yeah, she got that leg snapped up pretty good in that last fight, but I mean, she tapped, so I guess it must not have been that bad. Marvin, just look at my Instagram story this morning. No, wait a second. Are you telling us to look at your Instagram story because you're betting Marvin? Or are you saying that Marvin actually looked at your Instagram story this morning? Because if he looked at your story, that's pretty freaking cool. I love when fighters interact with fans. That's good stuff. Eric Rosa, tomorrow night, boxing is on. Hey, here's some picks from my boy Eric. I don't do boxing, so check his stuff out if you like boxing. Alex Ramirez, what's up, my buddy? Thank you very much for joining the chat. I appreciate you. Boston Nick, I was on Vettori then and I am now. That's right. I'm not wasting a whole lot of breath on it because we broke it down the last time and the story has not changed. I mean, the extra motivation for both guys, it's about the same. You can't really say that one guy is hotter than the other coming back on this thing. And yeah, I think it's the same exact cap. I like Vettori, and I'm going to go ahead and stick with that. So that said, let's go ahead and move on to the main event, shall we? Jessica Eye versus Cynthia Calvillo. Now, I know that, you know what, Eric, I just saw your comment, man. Merab parlay with Vettori. I like that too. And you're not laying minus 500 on that, so it's going to get you a better price, because I know you can't get the line that I got on my other leg of the parlay there. So not a bad call in my opinion. Everyone's going to groan about the main event here. Jessica Eye, Cynthia Calvillo. Not a fight that anybody is really overly interested in. Neither of these women is much of a draw. Honestly, I'm a fan of both. Y'all know that I am a diehard UFC fan, if you will. And I enjoy them both. I think they both have some serious upside, and this is a sneaky good fight. I've been trying to tell everybody, if you do me a favor, I wrote an article about this fight, breaking it all down for odds.com. So if you haven't gotten your fill of the Clint here on the show, head over to odds.com, check out that article for me. Do me a favor, click the link. It always helps me out when people interact and read my articles. Jessica Eye is a fighter that I've kind of grown to love. I know everybody hates how cringy she was against Valentina Shevchenko, but I actually kind of like that. Her being confident, 33 years old, this is kind of her last shot at it, and she's going to have to really sell it if she's looking to get back at another title shot, because she got destroyed, like next level destroyed, when she took on Valentina Shevchenko. That's a highlight that people are going to see for years and years and years to come. So erasing the memory of that, she's going to have to do something impressive to get back there. She has a stalking, forward moving pressure style. She does keep a high guard up, real sharp boxing. She sits down on her punches. She's got some decent power. She mixes in leg and body kicks pretty well. She's got good head movement, and she's got a really strong right hand. I think that's her best weapon. When she hits the mat, she's intelligent off of her back, but all she does is stay safe. She doesn't have a whole lot of offensive capability, and she does know how to work back to her guard. So defensively, solid. Offensively, not so much. I understand that that's what she's been working on leading up to this fight, which is very, very intelligent of her considering who she's facing. But it's one of those things where how much of a gap can you really close in like 2 months of training the ground game? I don't think she's going to be where she needs to be to handle a chick like Cynthia Calvillo. She struggles with the threat of the takedown. That is really the biggest point that I can make here about Jessica Eye, is that she has a hard time with the takedown. And when you've got a fighter who can threaten that takedown, she gets a little gun shy because of it. Cynthia Calvillo on the other side of this thing, 8-1. She usually fights at 155. So very, very interesting here that she is coming up a weight to fight Jessica Eye. I think it's probably because of the circumstances we're under, maybe a lack of cardio, lack of training, or maybe just a shorter notice fight that she wasn't able to do it. I'm not sure. So that's something to keep an eye on. Questionable when people move up a weight class. However, she trains at Tiger Muay Thai, one of the best MMA gyms in the world. I love Tiger Muay Thai. They're very well-rounded, good coaching, and they teach everybody really all aspects of the game. So very, very good gym. She likes to press her opponents up against the fence. She's a grappler first, but her striking is very, very much improved. It's something she's been working on a lot lately. And you notice in her fight with Courtney Casey, she really tested out her striking. That was an opponent that I feel like she knew she had the grappling in her back pocket. She knew she could go back to that if she really needed to. And because of that, she was willing to wade into the fire and trade with Courtney Casey. So she tested out her striking, and it looked good. She won a full 15-minute decision over a game opponent using only her striking and not relying on her grappling, kind of showing her that she's where she needs to be. She's got a strong 1-2. She's another fighter that fires off of the clinch. I like to see catching their opponents off of those breaks. She also catches kicks. She can trip her opponents, threaten with takedowns off of that, and that's a weapon that Jessica really enjoys using, is the low kick and the body kick. So if she goes to that, Calvillo's gonna be wise to it and be able to put her down. I think Cynthia Calvillo has a speed advantage here, and that's something that could be dangerous both on the feet and on the mat. She has beautiful double leg entries, and when she gets you on the mat, she transitions seamlessly to better positions. She can move right into half control, right into mount. She is extremely dominant in those areas, and I love seeing her do that. Recently, she's been training over at AKA, and I think that's because of the world situation that we're in, and because of that, honestly, I expect her to be even sharper on the mat. She's training with guys like Cain Velasquez, with Daniel Cormier. I know Khabib's not over there right now, but AKA is known for their grappling and their wrestling. she's going to be on point with her ground game coming out of that camp for this fight. And she's really smart about stealing rounds. She goes for those takedowns late in the rounds to make sure the judges see her on top of her opponent before that bell rings. If it's a close round, that's going to get you the nod, and that's exactly what you need to win fights. The other thing I noticed is she has Khabib-style wrist control. Not to that level, obviously, but she takes care. She gets her opponent's hands out of the equation. She grabs onto the wrist. She makes sure she's got them in a dominant position, and they can't use those hands to get out of them. It's a big, big factor when talking about being on the mat. She also has big ground and pound. Far more of a TKO threat on the mat than she is on the feet. And she always threatens submissions from the top. She has good Kimuras, arm bars, chokes, transitions to the back, incredible backpack ability, and she's got a great gas tank in round 3. So this is where everything gets super interesting, is how do these two match up? I really think that the takedown, the aggressiveness, the submission game of Cynthia Calvillo is going to play games in Jessica Eye's head. I think Jessica Eye is the better striker. However, I'm not entirely sold on that fact because Calvillo has come so far along with her boxing in her last couple fights. She might be close. She might be able to hang with Jessica Eye on the feet. Jessica Eye is going to have the power advantage. She's the bigger woman. She's going to have the strength advantage. But if Cynthia Calvillo can grind on her and put her down over the course of these fights, I think she's going to be able to win this thing with grappling. I think that she'll be able to wear on Eye, and as long as being the smaller fighter doesn't gas her too much trying to take the larger fighter down, I think the 5 rounds actually plays into her hands. Because if she can spend a round or two striking and hang with someone like Eye on the feet and then put her grappling to use like every other round or at the end of every round, I think she's going to steal them. I think she's going to steal rounds. She's going to bank them early. And as long as she doesn't gas out and get clipped with something big, I think Cynthia kind of runs away with this one. Now, the odds makers have this as basically a straight pick 'em. A little bit of money, it looks like, is starting to, there's a little buyback on Calvillo, not a lot, but Jessica Eye opened up the favorite. I'm sorry, other way around. What? I'm confusing myself here. These books are doing different things. So it looks like Calvillo may have actually opened up the favorite, and money so far has come in on Jessica Eye. That's where this is a fight I'm not super confident on. So if I was going to pick a side, I would definitely go with Calvillo. I think that's the side that I like the most, but it's a coin flip for a reason. There's a bunch of questions here. We don't know why the fight is happening at 125. We don't know if the size discrepancy is going to be that big of a deal or not. This is a fight that I plan on waiting for weigh-ins. This is a fight that I want to see where the line moves. I want to see what some other people are saying. Even though I trust myself, obviously, I want to hear some other takes and maybe see where I'm missing something. And then I want to see how they face off. Because if Cynthia Calvillo is not that much smaller than Jessica Eye, I definitely think that grappling advantage is going to be what wins this fight. However, if Jessica Eye comes out here and towers over her, she's such a mean boxer with such power, up an extra 10 pounds, she could actually do some damage to Calvillo. I think Calvillo is the future star. I think Eye's on the downslide, but there's no denying that I might be able to come back and win this fight. Now, I'm having a hard time with the angle of stepping on fighters' throats. You know, when you've got somebody hurt, when you've got somebody down, you're thinking they're done, and they get one more shot. You step on their throat. Go for the kill. They're probably done. They're probably going to get cut. But the last 3 or 4 times I've tried that angle, they end up bouncing back and winning. They pull off the upset. They screw my night up. They cost me money. And that's kind of what's happening here. I feel like I got her rebound fight, and now the UFC is tossing her to the wolves. They're trying to make Cynthia Calvillo look good. They want this star to be pushed, and that's the side that I want to be on. However, that's what happened with Hooper, and we got screwed. And I've done that with Cody Garbrandt. I thought he was on a 3-fight skid, and it was going to be a 4-fight skid, and maybe we'd forget about him. That didn't work out. Now, we don't want to let that recency bias cloud us from good spots, but I'm not sure how good of a spot this is. So, gun to my head, I'm on Cynthia Calvillo. That's the side that I was take, but I'm not going to make any official bets or plays on it. Right now, I've only got the 2. I've got a bet on Charles Jourdain at plus 195. I have my 2 times parlay, Merab Dvalishvili versus and Jessica Avila. Those are my 2 L's of the night, if you will. And that's all I've got. I'm keeping a real close eye on the other ones. I like Marvin Vettori. I like Espinosa, but not a lot because he's got very questionable IQ. I like Aguilar. That's one that I may end up talking myself into pulling the trigger on. I like Griffin, even though there's a flood of money coming the other direction. That's one that I might end up talking myself onto. I like Benoit. And I'm going to be looking at the totals when those come out later in the week. That's the show, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you all being here. Cynthia, thank you for tuning up here in the chat. Welcome to the show. Oh, sorry. Alex Ramirez is saying Cynthia. Deuces. Okay. I thought my girl Cynthia actually joined in the chat. I forgot Cynthia Calvillo was the fighter here. Well, thank you all so much. I appreciate you all for joining me. Again, like I said, thank you so much to my new sponsor, odds.com. Please subscribe to Odds HQ on the YouTube channel. Head on over to the Die Hard MMA podcast. Subscribe to me there. Folks, we set a record last week. We had over 1,500 views on the breakdown for UFC 250. That's my highest viewership yet on a single episode, and it's all thanks to you. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be doing this. So thank you all so much for the support. I appreciate it. Here at the Die Hard MMA podcast, we want to be a family. We want to lift each other up. Positivity. No single bad night is going to make or break you. We always look to learn from our mistakes, and we're not dicks to anybody. So subscribe, hang out, join the Die Hard Horde, join the odds.com family. Good luck on your action this week, folks. I will see you tomorrow for a live roundtable when I go live with Mo Scream, Boston Nick, Jimmy the Bag. We're going to go over all these fights again. We will be live on camera and highly entertaining because that's what we do. And then I will see you later in the week for my new Total Madness show. Make sure you tune in for all of those. Until next time, let's roll.